Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our session on investing and developing teachers and leaders. We will begin our learning today by spending just a few seconds to connect and orient ourselves on how we will spend time today. Remember that you had some pre-work that you were to do. One of the parts of the pre-work was to look at the 8 steps of leading change by Kotter. Also, you were supposed to go ahead and take the leader self-assessment and also looking at the leader roadmap. You will need all of those today during our session. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Thelma Perry. I'm a senior manager here at TNTP, and I'm coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee, home of Elvis and the Blues. We will be joined today by my co-facilitator, Margaret, and also some of our fellow TNT peers who you see here on the screen. At this time, Margaret, will you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all again here today. My name is Margaret Bruce, Senior Manager of Academics and ELA here at TNTP. Welcome to our 5th and final session. Really excited to talk more about PD and help prepare for the upcoming school year. Back to you, Thelma.
Thank you, Margaret. Very quickly, I wanted to just give you a bit of background information on TNTP, just in case you're not familiar with our organization. We were founded in 1997 by a group of teachers who believe that all students deserve great teaching with a particular focus on equity for those students who have historically been underserved. Today at TNTP, we focus on rigorous content. We also focus on talented people like yourselves and supportive environments. We offer a range of supports from strategic advice to multi-year execution with school districts, with charter networks, and departments of education such as DESE. DESE and TNTP have partnered with several initiatives before, such as the Teacher Diversification Program and the Developing Leaders and Learners. There are 2 versions of the roadmap. They were developed through the voices of the stakeholders of the Commonwealth. We heard from school and district leaders, we heard from teachers, students, and community members. Their voices and their thoughts and their insight was essential to the development of the roadmaps and the planning for the summer learning that you have encountered over the last few weeks. Roadmaps are uniquely designed with a focused and a phased approach to supporting the launching of accelerated learning for the 21-22 school year. These will lay the foundation for several years to come. The phases of the roadmap are very similar to our typical phases of a school year, where we begin our school year with diagnosing and then planning. Then, of course, we look at our current state to launch our school year. We monitor as we go along, and then finally we reflect on our successes. However, this is not the typical school year, and we're very well aware of that. But we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel here. We understand that many of the things that you hear and see will be things that you have already started. We want to just take the time to help you understand that learning acceleration will support you bringing your students into grade level instruction, and it will also support their well-being. Thus, we would like to partner with you this year to plan in your planning phase to help you prioritize exactly what's most important to you for your school in order to make learning acceleration a reality. Before we move on, let's take a pulse check here and pause to make sure that we have a common understanding of the term accelerated learning. So if you would be so kind, please chat 1 to 2 words or even a phrase that comes to your mind when you hear the term accelerated learning. Grade level materials, thank you for starting us off. Just in time supports, absolutely. Several of your, not remediation, man, you all are on it. Deeper learning, helping students to make progress in just-in-time scaffolds. Absolutely. Learning acceleration is not about going at a faster pace. It's about, just like you said, those just-in-time supports that equitably allow students to access grade level content. It's about giving students just the right amount of support and help and scaffolds that they need to move them forward strategically. Remediation, on the other hand, which we also often hear about, is quite different. And it's our typical way of intervening. It's about putting students in below grade level content to fill those previous gaps. Students won't even come close to catching up in remediation, but actually it will instead compound the problem and give them and slow them down, actually putting them in work that's actually better suited for earlier grades. In TNTP's opportunity myth, we found that though remediation is well-intentioned, it guarantees that students will lose academic ground, and it reinforces the misguided, inequitable belief that some students actually cannot do grade level work. Too often, the students who get stuck in these vicious cycles are those that are disproportionately and the most vulnerable students of color from low-income families with special needs and with learning differences. Unfortunately, with remediation, specific groups of students don't get the supports that they need to address their unfinished learning and bring them into grade level content. This strategy actually only widens the opportunity and the achievement gaps. In order for us to be ready on the first day back, schools have to be ready with a different strategy for diagnosing unfinished learning and preparing students to access grade level content. You can discover more about this as you unpack the concept of accelerated learning by looking at the opportunity myth. We've learned quite a bit from the opportunity myth. On page 8 of your guide, you will see a broad view of the key action steps for launching the school year. On this, you will notice that there are specific phases as well as priorities and times. Please take a moment now to access the document in your guide. As you look at this, please remember to use this tool and always consider your own personal context. Also be reminded that the timeframes that you saw there are simply suggestions of when those particular action steps would be most effective throughout the school year. We recognize that you already have plans in place that include some of these action steps. So please just remember to keep this in context, in your own context, as you begin to use this tool. Over to you, Margaret.
Thanks, Thelma. And thank you all again for being here today. Really excited to do this work alongside you. I'd also like to just take a brief step back and share that if you have an individual question or a one-on-one question, would just love to direct you to Tabitha, who will be able to answer those questions for you. And Tabitha can just say hi in the chat right now. In case you have an immediate need or question that comes up, she'll be able to answer you right away in the case that Thelma or myself are not. So thank you for that. Please take a minute now to read through our objectives for our session today. We'll take 1 minute to do that. And after you've had the chance to read through them, if you could just share in the chat a word or a phrase that stands out to you that you would really like to hold on to for our time together today, we'll take a look. Thank you, Leanne, for getting us started. Proactive solutions. Absolutely. Barriers to change. Thanks, Doug. Key barrier. Thank you, Bethany. Absolutely. And as you're reading and sharing your key phrases, just keep these in your back pocket as things that you can continue to return to and focus on throughout our session today. Thanks, Michelle. Lots on identifying barriers. Terrific. Mark, excellent. Teacher preparation. Love this trend of key barriers. Next steps, Patricia, thank you for that. Quality goals, stakeholders. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Tabitha. Awesome. So thank you for taking a minute to review our objectives. Do keep in mind your focus for today as we move forward. But now let's go ahead and get started. So just a quick show of thumbs, and you can either give me the physical thumb or a virtual thumbs up if you were able to complete your self-assessment prior to our session today. And no worries if you weren't. Thanks, Colleen. Thanks, Tabitha. Okay, thanks, Doug. Awesome. So no problem if you weren't able to complete it. But let's actually start our work today by thinking back and thinking about your self-assessment as well as your unique school context and the individual needs within your school or district by revisiting that self-assessment. So with your leadership role in mind, you'll want to plan really strategically and use the roadmap as a tool as you are supporting and identifying those high priority goals and action steps that will serve the students in your unique context. So many of you have started or been doing the outstanding work of this strategic planning by completing your self-assessment prior to this PD. So thank you so much if that was you. And again, no worries if it wasn't. In a moment, we'll take some time to plan more into our self-assessment. And if you haven't completed it yet, we'll have that time to get started on it at least. The goal being, when we start with our own unique school needs and your own self-assessment, you can really take what serves you and help to create those goals and help to diminish those barriers that many of you named in the chat as we do our planning and our work today. So I would love to invite Tabitha from TNTP, if you would please come to the mic and read the 3 questions on the slide for us.
Certainly. Independently reflect. Based on your responses to the self-assessment tool, what priority area needs the most attention? What will you prioritize addressing within this area as you plan for the 21-22 school year? And what conditions, systems, and/or structures on your site currently support realizing these priorities?
Thank you, Tabitha. Appreciate you reading those. So again, the goal is that we're going to be starting by thinking about your unique needs and context based on the self-assessment in the roadmap. The self-assessment is also linked along with the note catcher in the chat. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to have 2 different options that you can select. One will be to take the next 3 minutes and actually begin completing your self-assessment if you haven't had the chance to do that yet. The second option is going to be to reflect on these 3 questions based on your self-assessment and capture some notes in your note catcher. After these 3 minutes, we'll come back together and identify some of those conditions, systems, and structures that you wrote about in your notes to share out all together. Any questions before we begin work time? I'll put the directions in the chat as well for a reminder, but please feel free to turn off your camera for the next 3 minutes if you like to work with your camera off like me, and just listen for my voice to bring us back together to share out. I'm going to invite us all back together to rejoin on camera if you stepped away for a moment. That time probably felt really fast, and that's okay. Something to keep in mind during our session today is that some of these activities, especially the self-assessment, can be done independently or with your team or your coach and build this out more fluidly. So this is a great kind of entry point into those extension activities that you can do offline. So thank you for engaging in that work, albeit brief. I would love to think about what priority did you identify as something you would like to focus on in this coming school year? And then also, what are the strengths in your current schooling environment that will help support bringing that priority to life? Those are just 2 questions that you might choose to answer, or you can go more broadly than that. But if you would like to share your thinking, please put your name in the chat now so we know that we can start with you. We'd love to hear from 1 or 2 people. Thanks, Doug. I know we can count on you. A couple of the folks appreciate that. Thanks, Doug.
Do you want me to jump in now, Margaret, or you want to wait a minute?
Yeah, go for it, Doug. And then if another person wants to share their name as well, we'll have time for 1 more participant to share. Would love to hear from you all.
Okay. It's really building a culture of data and reflection, and more importantly, action steps from those reflections is really my key priority. It's something that has gone lax in my first couple of years. Certainly COVID didn't help, but it definitely needs to be a focus and a priority as we dive into this work. And so that'll be really kind of my key priority, to get established that culture, starting with myself, and then recruiting the folks I need to help with that in terms of a data team and moving forward.
Thank you so much, Doug. Data, of course, is absolutely critical, and I love that you're thinking about the ways in which you wanted to build into that as well. And thank you for sharing. Would love to invite one more participant to come to the mic to share out your priority area. You can also share what you focused in on in the chat as well, and we can take a look there. Okay. Thanks, Maria, for sharing in the chat as well. Reading grade level text in all grades. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Maria. Perfect. So, oh, thank you, Vanessa. These are great. Feel free to keep populating the chat with whatever your priority was, if that's your comfort level, not a problem at all. But I encourage all of us today to keep those priority areas in where we really want to build into based on our unique schooling context in your back pocket as we move through our session today, because you'll begin identifying goals and PD plans based on your unique needs. Like Doug said that he wanted to work on data and data teaming. So Doug, I encourage you to think about how you can do that and begin planning in our session today. Perfect. And thank you all for sharing in the chat as well. So let's go ahead and move forward into our next objective, which is explaining your next steps for planning and training for your teachers and leaders. So one of the first steps that leaders can take is to think more broadly about what PD is. Okay, and to take that idea and really broaden it out and flesh it out a little bit. So for example, in my personal experience, PD has evolved from that direct after school instruction every Wednesday and taken on these multifarious forms of existence to monthly PLCs with role-alike staff and weekly data team meetings with all grade level instructors. These can all count as PD. There are phases in the roadmap to support as well how PD should evolve over the course of the year. For example, you'll probably start with a PD that you've been planning in September and then provide targeted observations and feedback cycles that are aligned and based off of that PD. However, that will evolve, of course, over the course of the year as you plan different PDs and then create new objectives and new coaching cycles as your teachers and staff begin to meet those. The big idea here to stamp, though, is that teacher development and PD is continuous and spirals over the course of the year. It really should be an iterative process. And so with that, we have so much expertise to leverage in the room. So we're going to take the next 4 minutes and brainstorm collectively in the Padlet, which you can see in the chat. Now that we've kind of broadened our definition of what PD can be, what are all of the PD opportunities that currently exist in your school community right now? Again, the link to the Padlet is in the chat as well as in the note catcher. If you've never used a Padlet before, in order to add your idea, just click on that pink plus button on the Padlet page and you can add words or images to represent your thinking. Again, we'll do this process independently. So if you are camera off, that's totally fine. But just listen for my voice to bring us back together to discuss in about 4 minutes. I'll put the directions in the chat again as well. Keep up this great work. I'm noticing many of you are adding hearts to certain ideas that resonate with you. So keep on adding to it. Keep on clicking a heart if something resonates with you. And then we'll have a discussion about some of these great ideas. All right, our Padlet is looking really robust. So I'm going to go ahead and invite us all back together. If you can rejoin, I know that you've probably got the gears turning. So thank you so much. And what I'm going to bring us into next is actually the chance to briefly touch base with our colleagues in breakout rooms that'll be about 3 minutes long. And what I would love for you to share when you're in these breakout rooms is a trend that you're seeing in the Padlet and any new ideas that you want to steal, or perhaps questions that you might have to leverage with your colleagues. I'll open breakouts now and I'll put those directions into the chat as well so that we can all see them when we're there. So trends, bright ideas that you want to steal, questions. And I'll see you at about 34 after the hour. See you soon. So if you notice any trends, any ideas that you want to steal, or any questions for clarification for someone else in the space, you can share those in the chat now, or you can just hop off mute and share your thinking. And it looks like we're kind of getting the gears turning, and that's okay. We'll take some wait time here.
I don't mind sharing out one observation that we have from our group. Kristen observed as I was kind of reading from the Padlet to someone that the Padlet crashed on. The observation that a lot of it that was shared isn't the traditional PD that you see in schools, and a lot of it was kind of learning together with teachers. And things that teachers might not recognize as PD, but feels like some of the true, some of the best professional learning. That wasn't brought up by me, but I wanted to bring up our group, and I thought it was a great observation.
Dan, thank you so much. And that's absolutely the type of team energy that we want to create in the space today. So thank you for coming off mute. I'm thinking about, and lots of great ideas happening in the chat as well. So thank you for that. Dan, you talked about that teachers might not realize all of the different ways that PDs can take place. So what does that tell us as school leaders or district leaders? How could we help set our teachers and staff up for success to reshape the way we think about PDs? And Dan, I would love to hear your thoughts on that, or if anyone else wants to jump in as well. Or Dan, feel free to nominate from someone from your group.
I mean, I don't mind jumping back. I think that I think I saw it in the chat, and I think it was brought up in our group too. One thing that Doug mentioned was grounding conversations around data and building those data teams, but also the ownership and building that trust with staff, so that they see this as they realize this is a journey together, and that not only is their thoughts welcomed, but that they have the expertise that we need in order to lead this type of change in this work with our students.
Thank you so much, Dan. I'm going to have to come back to you later in the session because some of those, you're like, no, please don't. Some of those ideas are absolutely golden, especially about how important it is to build and cultivate and maintain trust with our teachers and staff. Leveraging their expertise in the conversation to lead this change as well will be invaluable as we think about planning PDs for this year. And so with that, we've really, through this Padlet exercise, we've been able to kind of broaden our definition or perhaps reaffirm our definition of how broad PD can be. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And now that we've identified that or reaffirmed it, we can really see that it is and it can be an iterative process over the course of the year and throughout these 4 phases. And it will be really important to regularly reflect and assess whether the PD is actually supporting school growth and learning acceleration, or whether there's still some gaps in there that we can build up. So in order to do this, you'll notice these reflection questions to help guide your process that you can see here on our slide. So take a minute to just review some of these reflection questions. And what my ask for the group is that you just select one reflection question you think will be helpful for your process as a leader, and either share that in the chat or just jot it down on pen and paper or put it in your note catcher today so that you can be sure to actually ask yourself as we begin this school year. That was a lot of talking. So just real quick again, read through these reflection questions and then select one you want to hold on to and put it in the chat for us all to see, or put it in your personal notes. Thank you, Doug. Is the development clearly linked to school goals? I love that one because it can be easy, I know, to get off track and a million different events happen throughout the school year, but returning to these questions, returning to your school goals will help to ensure that the learning acceleration and the growth needed is actually taking place. Just reading a few more as they crop up. Take your time. I know these are meaty questions, but would love to share them with the group as well. Is there a clearly identified change in teacher practice? Thank you, Vanessa. Is there opportunity for differentiation? We talk about that so much for our student population. How much are we talking about it with our teachers? Thank you for that, Kristen. Yes, okay. Clearly identified change looks like a trend as well. So I just encourage us in this group to hold on to that question. It's easy to put it in a chat and forget about it, but really to hold on to it and commit to asking yourself that as a way to measure the amazing progress that I'm sure will be happening in your schools this year. And so with that, we're actually going to move forward and begin thinking about planning some additional PDs in our school. So now that we've had the opportunity to review a couple of scope and sequences in phase 1, priority 2 guidance from the roadmap to support your planning acceleration for your staff. We're going to take a look at some sample scope and sequences, which we'll put in the chat for you now. They're called sequence A and sequence B. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the next 4 minutes to skim through these sample plans independently. And say you're someone that really likes to get into the weeds, you might select just one plan and focus on that. And if you want to think more broadly, you can skim through them both. There will be no quiz at the end. But you can begin using these plans to generate some ideas for your own learning acceleration PD plan. After we've had the chance to review these documents independently, we're going to head into breakouts to discuss. And so I just listen for my voice and I will frame those breakouts before we go into it. But with that, I'll let us turn your cameras off. It seems like that's working for the group. Take the next 4 minutes to read and jot any notes or ideas you'd like to steal for your own PD plan in your note catcher. Put the directions in the chat as well in case that works for you, and listen for my voice in 4 minutes. And I know that you're still working now, but no need to turn your camera on. But I just wanted to bring our attention to the note catcher as well. There is a table within the note catcher that has the links to the scope and sequences. And then within that table, you can feel free to capture your thinking about training goals or PD plans or objectives that you would like to give to your staff based on your unique needs. And that's a great place to capture that thinking before we head into breakouts. Okay, see you back in 1 minute. All right, team, I'm going to welcome us back. Thank you so much for engaging in the activity. And thank you for coming back to camera. That lets me know you're still with me and haven't fallen asleep at the computer. No, I'm teasing, but thank you, thank you. Quick show of thumbs. Was that enough time to read and get some PD ideas down? You can show me a thumbs or a virtual thumb. Some side thumbs. Appreciate that, Deanna. Thank you. Very real. Okay. And some, it looks like some kind of reluctant nodding. Okay. So it seems as though the group is in this process of thinking and planning, but maybe is not fully concrete in your ideas yet. Does that feel right to everyone? Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Maria. Thanks, Kathleen, for the head nod. Appreciate it. So with that in mind, I would love for everyone to just think back to the self-assessment that we looked at in the beginning and think back to those goals that we were focused on based on your priority. So for example, Doug had talked about data. Sorry, Doug, I might have to keep referencing that. So Doug, keep that data theme in mind, or keep your own priority in mind as we go into breakouts. And what we're going to do in breakouts is just begin brainstorming some PD plans. This might be an objective for one PD. This might be a unique PD PLC or opportunity that you'd like to create. Or this could be a longer term vision of what you would like to do for a PD based on that priority that you had identified. Any questions before we go into breakouts? Awesome. Well, don't be shy. This is a great opportunity to learn from each other. So we're going to head into breakouts for about the next 7 minutes. So everyone will have the chance to share and maybe even think of some new ideas. If new ideas come to you, you can jot them into your note catcher as well. We'll see you back in 7 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much. Again, Zoom will not mute you if you were in the throes of a riveting conversation. So do please mute yourself unless you'd like us to hear anything in the background. Thank you again. I heard so many great conversations that I would love to share out together. Okay, so one trend that I did hear was on the issue of time. And as I share this trend takeaway, if you would like to share your goal, please put your name in the chat. I would absolutely love to hear a few other voices, especially if you haven't shared yet today. I invite you to the mic. Put your name in the chat if you've got an idea of a PD goal. But time, right? There's so little time in the day, in the school year, and other responsibilities that we have to attend to, which is why I wanted to start with the Padlet and the brainstorming about all the different ways that PDs can exist and the different ways that we can get creative with them. So I encourage us to keep that as an entryway as we go into PD planning for the school year as well. And so with that, any goals that you've identified or would like to share for PD? These can be as simple as start planning my PD or as specific as here's an objective I would like to achieve. What goals did you discuss? You can put your name in the chat or just hop off mute if you'd like to share. Remember, this is our very last leader PD session, so we can make the most of it by hearing from many different voices.
I'm gonna summarize and maybe like a little bit editorialize what we talked about in my group around setting a specific goal at the beginning of the year around just teacher mindset of we're not going to just refer everyone to special education if they're behind, that we like really dig in on tier 1. And that's something that does have to happen right at the beginning of the year because we don't want teachers approaching with this mindset and like, you know, waiting for the referral to like quote unquote fix whatever is, you know, learning loss. We're not doing that. And so setting a really, sorry, Margaret, that's not a specific goal, but a specific goal around teacher mindset right at the beginning of the year in those first 2 days you have of PD, and then focusing on some of the skills that are required for learning acceleration as the year goes on, because you can't do it all at once.
Thank you so much, Tabitha. Appreciate you jumping in at any point in time. So thank you for that. So Wendy as well in the chat, Vanessa, some ideas coming up. PD needs to be meaningful, usable, measurable, actionable, and carried through the entire year. Yes, absolutely, Wendy, thank you. And Vanessa, helping staff to understand why it's necessary and providing some practical strategies. 100%. Differentiating PD times. And some comments there as well for tier 1 and special education referrals. Perfect. So thank you all for engaging in that brainstorming. We're going to pick up with Thelma and our next objectives.
So let's shift gears just a bit here and talk about how we can actually get our educators focused on sustainable learning acceleration. So if we can move the slide, thank you. I'd like to invite my colleague and fellow TNT peer, Irene, to come off mute at this time and read the quote that's on the slide for us, please.
Sure. Knowledge is rarely enough to spark change. It takes emotion to bring knowledge to a boil. Chip Heath, the author of Switch.
Thank you, Irene. So if you're familiar with the book Switch, then you're familiar with the tenets of change management. For the remainder of the time that we're here together today, we're going to focus on what it takes to successfully implement change and how we can get those in our communities to get invested in change.
Absolutely. So each of us, as we're planning for the next school year, is thinking about how to implement the roadmap and how to focus on learning acceleration, especially after everything that's happened in the past 2 years. So announcing acceleration and the roadmap might disrupt the stasis of the school or school system, especially as staff returns from a strenuous and uncertain year. This could potentially shock or disrupt some of the members of your school or district and could potentially cause changes in behavior, some good, some perhaps room to grow. So when expectations change, people experience that as a loss of control and a sense of overwhelm, which can lead and produce dysfunctional behavior. The goal as leaders is going to be to try to restore predictability, to give indirect control and balance capacity and demand. The slide here represents research that Bain has produced on 3 perception factors that determine most of the level of disruption and resistance. So just as Dan mentioned, trust is absolutely key. When change or news of change comes from a trusted source, any risk is more acceptable than when the source is less than trusted. Additionally, risks that carry a benefit are more acceptable than those without a benefit. So communicating that will be key. And lastly, control. Risks that are under personal control are more acceptable than risks that are controlled by others. So if we're able to give staff and teachers that element of indirect control, it will absolutely help to transform as we plan to make the changes we need to in the school year. So there is some really good news, however. Resistance to change is natural. I know I've been there myself, and most likely you can say that as well. It's natural and it can be managed by planning for and making transparent its predictable patterns. As you think about your change management plan, which we're about to do, anticipating human responses to change and planning for them will be critical. This is where we can make a connection to Kotter's framework. Just a quick show of thumbs if you're familiar with Kotter's framework or had the chance to do that as pre-work. Cool, thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Colleen. Awesome, so we've got some Kotter experts in the house. Thanks, Doug. I'll be coming to you, no, I'm just kidding. But we do want to revisit them and kind of situate Kotter's framework in the work that we're doing here today, thinking about our staff and change management. So for those that don't know, Kotter's framework is a research-based tool to support organizations like schools to build sustaining change and drive outcomes in the best interest of students and families. We'll have some time at the end of the session to start the work of change management. And even though we probably won't finish, we'll have the opportunity to get some feedback as well. So we'll go ahead and move forward and break down the concrete elements of Kotter's framework. The first 3 steps of Kotter's framework are around creating and sustaining an environment of change. It's really critical to create that urgency before the work can even begin. And it's really important when thinking about acceleration that we as leaders take a landscape analysis. So there are lots of changes that have arisen from the COVID-19 crisis, and we need to be thinking about how can we leverage the positives, such as perhaps increased technological fluency, while working to address or move past the areas for growth. Identifying key players for your guiding coalition is absolutely key. Kotter says that this group should include members of the staff who are not a part of the senior leadership. So with that, I have a question to pose for the group. Why is it important that this group of key players or this coalition come from multiple departments and levels? In other words, what's the value add of including diverse stakeholders? Go ahead and share your thinking in the chat or come off mute if you have an idea to share. Why is that diversity so important when we're thinking about our guiding coalition? Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jennifer. Absolutely, more buy-in. Vanessa, would you like to say a little bit more about that?
Just that the more voices that you have incorporated, the more it can represent the entire entity rather than just feel like a top-down initiative led by one person.
Absolutely, Vanessa. Thank you so much for coming off mute to share that. And Michelle, would you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by shares the message?
Sorry, I was muted. Each of the key players has sort of their colleagues that they work with, and each one of them brings it back to more staff members. And so it sort of helps to spread the message and the positivity by the different players that are involved.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming off of mute and sharing your thinking. These are exactly right. So these people that we invite to be a part of the Guiding Coalition can push the message to others, as well as bringing those important new perspectives into the conversation. As we talk about this, think about key leaders or folks that you might not have considered that you would like to include in your Guiding Coalition, and share those titles in the chat. The Guiding Coalition needs to be deeply invested in the improvements that are needed, and they're a group that will help to draft your strategic vision. And lastly, that vision should be concise, but be directly and clearly related to learning acceleration. And so moving forward in Kotter's framework, they talk about enlisting a volunteer army. It takes more than one meeting for your vision to become a part of the structure of the organization. It's not something that just goes up in a hallway and then is forgotten, right? It's connected throughout the school year. The work of acceleration is new and exciting, but that will require institutional and organizational changes to take place. And of course, there will probably be some bumps in the road because change is hard and it can be scary. There might even be naysayers, but it's important to stick with your entire school and staff community to help get everyone on the same page. Kotter says that organization leaders must create short-term wins for their staff and team as well, that they can benchmark on a calendar and help identify and celebrate as you meet and achieve those short-term wins for change. And finally, steps 7 and 8 in Kotter's framework. We know that we can't stop with those short-term wins. Sustaining acceleration means not letting off the gas when they happen. So each short-term victory during the acceleration process is an opportunity to go back to those self-assessments and reevaluate the components that are working and what changes might need to be made. Kotter does state that the work's not done until the change becomes embedded within the institution. So even if key stakeholders leave or move on or change titles, the change stays the same. And that's how we know, that's how we will know that it's taken place and that we can really lean into learning acceleration as a part of the work that is happening in schools. And so with that, I'm going to bring it and hand the mic over to Thelma.
Okay, so now we want you to think deeper about your own context in your own district or school. And we want to think about what stage you're in terms of making the learning acceleration an internal structure for your school or district. So let's just pause here, and in the chat box, just drop us a message about where you think you are in making the learning acceleration structure a reality in your school. Thank you, Doug. Right at the beginning, but in the planning, absolutely. And I think that's the consensus for many of our colleagues here. We're at square one. Thank you for sharing that, Deanna. Absolutely. And that's understandable because as we've said earlier, we recognize that you're deep into your planning, but this is just another portion that has to be added into it. And we understand that your students are coming this fall and that the stakeholders have to be ready for them. But we also have to be ready to do this work of learning acceleration. It's important that we make sure that our staff are vested and that they understand the importance of working through the consequences of the pandemic. It is our job as leaders to make sure that we're building systems that can adequately sustain learning acceleration. So let's think about for a moment. Thank you for sharing that piloting acceleration. Absolutely, Jennifer. We can move on to the next slide. Let's think about just for a moment the question that you see here on the screen, because we understand, and in any planning, when there is something new, there are going to always be potential barriers. But to every barrier, there's also a possible solution. We understand that the goals for learning acceleration are a work in progress, but it is critical that we carefully consider how this scope of work will help us to move our students from remediation, our staff from remediation mindset to acceleration mindset for our content teams. As we move through the stages of change, chances are there are going to be fireworks. Though district leaders, our U.S. district leaders have a less focused approach to this, and you're at a broader perspective, it's still extremely important that we ensure that this work happens. Some districts we recognize may have some limitations for rolling out acceleration, and that is going to be hard at certain stages. We totally understand that. So we want to give you an opportunity to brainstorm about some of the potential barriers that you will encounter. So for the next few minutes, about 5 minutes, we're going to give you an opportunity to go back into small groups and discuss what you see are potential barriers to being able to roll out learning acceleration, and also to share some solutions in your small groups with your colleagues, because we know that you'll learn way more from each other. So at this time, we're going to go back into a breakout. And when we go into the breakout, we're going to think about the question that we see here. What are those potential pain points? What barriers do you see? And what are some possible solutions? We'll go to the breakout groups. It is now 13 after. We'll go in and we'll come back into the whole group at 18 after. 3 very brilliant men who had great ideas, and for all of their barriers, they were very quick to also turn to solutions. And I appreciate the opportunity to learn from them. And since I wasn't able to be in other groups, I would love to hear some of the barriers that were posed, as well as some of the solutions. So I would invite you at this time to just simply enter those into the chat box. If you were in a group where you heard outstanding information and maybe your colleague may be shy, please feel free to share some of the barriers that you heard, but also some of those solutions that you heard. So we'll pause here to give you just a moment to share in the chat box.
And Thelma, as folks are thinking, if we have time, I would love to invite Patricia to come to the mic. Patricia King, if you're comfortable. You had some great thinking around formative assessments and using that time.
Hi. First, I think we had talked too about a barrier being some teacher mindsets and waiting for interventionists to be able to come in and make some of those, work in those small groups and work with the students who are struggling. But we said we've got to put more responsibility on that tier 1 teacher, and how can we help them, but maybe take a look at some of the formative assessments, have them work on them together during their common planning time. And I had suggested Achieve the Core has some really nice assessments that are targeted right to the standards.
Thank you, Patricia, for sharing that idea. And thank you for all of those who entered your thoughts and your solutions and to the barriers in the chat box. We're now going to take a look at our final objective for today. And now you'll begin to have an opportunity to develop your own plan for communication. And so now I'm going to send it back to Margaret.
Thank you, Thelma, and thank you, Patricia, for allowing me to voluntold you to share your thinking. Thank you all, for, like Thelma said, for sharing your thoughts in the chat. Keep populating the chat. It's a great place to do so. So for our last objective today, we are going to begin planning how we can message your priorities and focus on learning acceleration to stakeholder groups. As we do that, we've taken a look at Cotter and we've taken a look at what people and stakeholders experience as they go through stressful times of change. We as leaders can begin thinking about how can we message these changes in the most effective and supportive way to help ensure that they begin happening. So effective messaging should be concise so that your audience can process the information at hand. It should be clear so that everyone can understand, even if they're really stressed. It should also be brief, note to self, that being mindful that when we're under stress, we have limited attention spans and can only take in so much information. So brevity is also key. And last but not least, it should be positive, thinking about the benefit that can help those changes happen, as well as building trust that will help to keep those relationships strong and supportive of this change. So let's now think about our own school community, and this is our last activity for today. Let's think about how can we tailor our communication for our specific groups. In your note catcher, independently begin crafting or brainstorming your communication, how you would like to message this PD, opportunity, or learning acceleration, or the changes that will be happening in your school to them. Go ahead and take the next 2 minutes to begin crafting that in your note catcher, and we'll begin closing out after we've had the chance to share some of that framing in the chat as well. I'll put the directions there too. And I'm just going to kind of mix it up here. In the interest of time, because we only have a couple of minutes left, I think that this planning process will have to be something that we continue offline, like so many of the things we discussed and began planning here today. But with that, I would love to invite anyone to share out, to come off mute or put in the chat any initial thinking that you have on how you would like to message this to the stakeholders in your community. What might you focus on? What's a specific idea in the way that you would approach it? Any ideas come to mind? I'm wondering if Doug has any last thoughts before we sign off today.
I was literally just looking for my video and unmute button, actually, Margaret, strangely enough. And only because the group I had and Kristen and Vanessa and Colleen, and it was a great group, and I'm not naming everybody in there, but just a great call. You know, we had during COVID these task forces of teachers that we brought together to help us with different things like changing the schedule around that had to happen 7 different times over the year, and kept it from being that top-down approach, and all the good things we were talking about bringing other teachers in to help you sell the message. It reminded me that we had that. And they reminded me that, hey, that's a great group of teachers to have participate in the August PDs or check out the asynchronous sessions and really kind of help us sell the idea. And especially if you already know there's some champion teachers who are fully invested in this idea already, they're the ones you want to tap into and help sell that message when you come together again, you know, August 30th, whatever your first day might be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doug, for sharing that out, thinking about the team that you can rely on to help disseminate this message. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Thelma, and there is a link to our survey in the chat. If you need to sign off early, please take some time to do that. But Thelma, please close us out. Thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you, Margaret. And thank you all so much for joining us today and intently participating. As you can see here, these are the things that we've covered today, and we would very much appreciate your feedback from the survey. We thank you for your time, and we hope that you have a wonderful remainder of the day. Thank you for being with us today.